Hi everyone, welcome. This system that you see right here is probably one of my biggest underdog stories, I would say, beginning right from the terrible condition that both of these trays are in. The one on top has totally lost its handle on this side. And the plastic is bowing in and there's cracks leading down, but in some fashion it's managing to hold together. Although each time I lift it this way, I feel like I'm straining it and cracking it further. But just to show you what's below, oops, I just heard another crack, but you get the idea. It's another pretty heavily damaged bus box. In this case, this one got melted. Although there's still a good few inches of depth remaining in here. The job of the lower container was always to be a kind of a catch basin for what might end up becoming excess moisture delivered into the system to try to help keep things nice and damp, because this system had a weird mission, which was to try to break down what I refer to as castings boulders. And those of you that have been with me since the beginning of this system, which goes back now 260 days, you know that the castings boulders are chunks of material that would not get caught, would not go through my screen, got collected up, and because there was so much of it, I used it as the medium into which I placed 134, that's an estimated number, we all came up with that number together, an estimated tiny population of 134 worms to see what they can make of that stuff. And this stuff has been with the system from the get-go as well. A lot of the castings boulders, when I started breaking them apart, started revealing little chunks of various debris. And I was always very suspicious that the castings boulders would be just producing debris like that non-stop, but that didn't really end up being the case, which was kind of nice. So the boulders, for the most part, when you still encounter one, luckily there's fewer and fewer of them each time because we've been manually crushing them every time we encounter them, if possible. And not one by one, it's just sort of what I do when I'm moving this stuff around and handling it. Because the worms just couldn't really make much of it, unfortunately. So now the last feeding they got was delivered to them by it being just placed right out on the surface. I know there was some coffee sprinkled on top of some carrot chunks. And besides the carrot chunks, I believe figs were also part of the feeding. The carrot I usually expect to see gone pretty soon after it's fed to the worms. The fig I have very little experience with, so I didn't know what to expect from that, but it does seem like the worms have, for the most part, worked down whatever it is that they were given last time. And there's also signs of some of the stuff that they were fed in feedings gone by. Because like banana and banana peels and banana stem, in the case of this object here, this would have required a good couple months already by now to get to that stage that we see it in right now. And this one here just happens to have a cocoon on it. So this banana stem, I believe it's a banana stem as well, had this little dark spherical object. It's more kind of egg-shaped with almost like a little teardrop end on it. Those are cocoons. And I guess to go from a population estimated to be 134 to what we have in here now does require some mating and cocoons getting dropped off. And that was always a nice thing to see. So my idea here, I guess, was to continue on with what we've been doing over the past couple check-ins for, I think, 18 feedings. For the better part of the system's life, we did ping-pong feedings, trying to, convince the worms to move throughout the system, go back and forth in pursuit of the newly added feedings. And they would always end up on the side of the bin where the most recent feeding had been put. Although there's usually leftovers remaining, and some worms just stay put where they were. But somehow the majority of the population always seems to track towards wherever it is that we've placed the food. And, since I really wanted the worms focusing on the entire contents of the container, I opted to not only surface feed last time, but do so in a way that it tried to spread the food supply out over the entire top surface of the system. The moisture level in here is quite adequate to help maintain a good environment for further breakdown of stuff. And there's plenty of stuff for them to work on in here. You know, when I mentioned foraging, to me foraging just means applying their next feeding with the customary inclusion of some grit of some sort. And in this case, the stuff that I'm giving them was sort of chosen specifically because it's thought to have little or no leftovers in a short period of time. Cucumber and watermelon, and I got my worm chow here. The last little bits of the worm chow I think I'm going to use up today and use that as an excuse to finally make more. So the tendency that I would often have to try to get a system ready for the worms to be convinced into moving out of this stuff is to start kind of souring the milk, or trying to make the environment a little less cozy for them to want to remain in, motivating the majority of them to start looking for something better, and then I set up that something better on at one of the edges of the bin. And that's what I refer to as migration, just getting the worms to voluntarily move out of the stuff that they occupy, just by offering them something a little bit better. And in a way, this system was always already lined up for an in-progress migration by having the foods placed on one side or the other. And then we just did away with that in order to try to spread out the worm activity. And I mean, what do you think? Is it fair to say that we've got more than 134 worms in here? I would think so. And I don't know, just something about the bulge on this little guy over here. Just seems like they've been busy trying to increase their numbers in here. And it does seem like they've done quite a good job of it. And you know, this little chunk of plastic over here just caught the side of my hand and jabbed me. I don't like that. Yeah, you know, this container I think is going to be retired after this commission. It's seen better days, and to try to prolong its retirement seems silly at this point. It's time for it to go. So in terms of other things that are time for, I think it's time to feed. I like the way I've managed to stir things around and in the process try to break little bits of boulders when I can. But in large part, I would think that the high moisture level in here is also contributing to the material holding together. And at some point, we'll strive towards drier, flakier material by allowing it to start losing some of its moisture content to evaporation, but not yet. Right now, we're going to still stick to pretty thorough coverings in the interest of seeing maximum worm composting action in here. And yeah, we're giving them more stuff, and this stuff's going to bring with it some good moisture too, if you ask me. All the juice is coming out of this stuff, increasing the moisture level in here even further, and I'm okay with that. We've got a lot of stuff they need to work on. I see leaf stems in here, all kinds of leftover banana peel stems, other bits of bedding leftovers all over the place. So let's just try to promote a good, successful wind down of this system by keeping things cozy and productive. And I think the worms will reward us with some lovely castings in the end. I don't think we're that far off. We're definitely getting there, and I think choosing foods that are going to leave no leftovers and omitting the inclusion of bedding since we're foraging are all things that are going to hopefully produce a nice result. And I think we're just kind of doomed to have boulders in the end. I don't think that this was the solution to do away with them, but hey, you got to try things if you want to discover new approaches, and well, this definitely isn't one of them. That's going to work for you. But it was fun, right? We're definitely winding down now. So that's it for the video, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.